Despite the Eagles' win to go to 11-2 on the season against the Carolina Panthers, it's actually not so sunny in Philadelphia. The passing game wasn't as crisp as we expected despite the return of Devontae Smith to the starting lineup after missing a couple games due to a hamstring injury. And AJ Brown showed his frustration during the game and even post-game. When asked about how the offense could improve, he simply replied, passing. AJ Brown is a very passionate player, and it's understandable for him to be frustrated when he is running wide open and he's simply not getting the ball due to Jalen simply missing the open read. And last year, when the offense was struggling out of the gates and AJ wasn't seeing the amount of targets that he's used to getting, he showed his frustration during the game, after the game, and the Eagles made adjustments. They focused the offense on him, and he went on a prolific run where he had 5 consecutive games posting more than 125 yards, and that led to him being Offensive Player of the Month. But this year, and at least this version of the Philadelphia Eagles, is much different. The past couple of years since AJ Brown has joined the Eagles, they've been a pass-first type of team where they can pass it all over the yard. You're seeing explosive plays in the passing game. But this year's 2024 Eagles are a run-first team led by Saquon Barkley. And in the process, ever since adapting to a run-first type of team, they have gone on a 9-game winning streak. They are 11-2. And they are one of the best teams in the NFC, and Saquon Barkley is on pace to break Eric Dickerson's rushing record. And with that comes a price, and that is fewer passing attempts, fewer options, fewer targets for not just AJ Brown, but also Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. And while those sacrifices are appreciated, it's still something to acknowledge because that is taking out of production for AJ Brown, and we've seen him show frustration in the lack of opportunities because they are now so limited. And this came to a head against the Carolina Panthers, where there were several plays where Jalen Hurts misses reads, particularly to AJ Brown, where he's wide open. Think about the touchdown play to Devontae Smith, where that was actually the more difficult throw, where you could see AJ Brown get freed up on a slant pattern, and he was wide open for what would have been an easy touchdown. Well, still, Jalen is able to complete the pass to Devontae Smith, which ends up being a touchdown, but the point is still made. And I understand, it is frustrating when you are doing the work and you're not getting rewarded for it, you're not getting opportunities. It's a league where you have to put out tape, you have to put out production to get more opportunities. And unfortunately, with the changes in the Eagles offense and it being simply only one football on the offensive field, there is only so much you can do in those limited plays. You focus on your strengths, which is running the ball with Saquon Barkley, and the touches that he's gotten is drastically different than running backs of the past. When Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift were in Philadelphia, the running game was still part of the Eagles offense and sometimes a focal point at times, but you could see that they still had a fairly more even distribution with run-pass plays. And now it's more run favored. I think the possessions have been maybe about 60-40 in terms of run-pass ratio, and that's great. I mean, it's working and it's leading to winning football, but there's going to be a time where defenses may be able to stop Saquon Barkley, and then it's going to force Jalen Hurts and this clunky Eagles passing offense to make some plays. And you have some of the best receivers to do so. Dallas Goedert, who will be back later, is a great tight end in this league. Devontae Smith has been a perennial Pro Bowl type of receiver and gets 1,000 yards consistently in his career. And AJ Brown is an all-world top 5 receiver who can make game-changing plays on a simple slant pattern, and he is a threat to take it all the way for 6. Post-game, the comments weren't helpful, and Jalen also wasn't helpful because he basically said, that's not my job to determine who gets the targets, who gets the looks on offense. And to add gasoline to these burning embers post-game, veteran Brandon Graham unfortunately made some poorly timed comments talking about how the relationship is between AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. Now, before they became teammates, they were good friends off the field. They would train in the offseason, they would get together, hang out, whatever have you. They've been friends for quite a time before they were even teammates. But since AJ's trade over to Philadelphia and joining the Eagles, their relationship has changed, and that's been evidented by Brandon Graham coming on 94 WIP. And in the process, that unfortunately, at least in the initial comments, that makes it sound like there is a growing rift between the star quarterback and wide receiving duo. Now, the next morning, Brandon Graham walks back on the comments, but still, the damage is done. And unfortunately for the Eagles, they now face a ton of drama heading into a big game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And of course, the media from local level amongst Philadelphia media, sports writers, and radio analysts to the national level on ESPN and NFL Network are now dissecting what could be potential drama happening again in Philadelphia. And remember that the stains, the collapse of 2023 is still haunting this franchise. Whether or not they are able to exorcise those demons remains to be seen. They are looking good, but I feel like the ghost of 2023 is going to haunt this Eagles team unless they are able to shut up all the doubters and not just have a good regular season, but have a great postseason and even win it all. Now, as much as the recent week has been troubling for the Philadelphia Eagles, I'd like to show you some examples of how this is actually a non-story. Now, we know that AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts are close. In fact, Jalen Hurts is actually the godfather to one of AJ Brown's children. And yet again, even including many battles on the field, and there are disagreements, there are heated moments, it's sports, there are passionate, heated moments in the faces of battle, but they come back as brothers. You can see that in their recent trip to LA against the LA Rams, where they recreate the iconic Fresh Prince of Bel-Air handshake between Jazz and Will Smith, and a week later they're posing for pictures in the win against the Baltimore Ravens in the locker room. And even pre-game, before the recent matchup between the Eagles and the Carolina Panthers, you can see that AJ, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Hurts all joining together arm in arm in a prayer circle. So tell me how a team that is marred, their locker room is coming apart, is actually showing this when you can see the camaraderie, the vibes are still high. Nick Sirianni, as goofy as he can be, is very transparent that he sees that the vibes are high. They're more like 2022, whereas 2023. Now, will that be able to be replicated on the field remains to be seen. Like I said, there's a big matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I do expect offensive coordinator Kellen Moore to come up with a scheme to not only just emphasize AJ Brown, but to also fix the passing game. Then that's a huge opportunity for the Eagles to shut up all the naysayers, all the critics, that this team is a force to be reckoned with. And when this offense is really firing on all cylinders, they're going to be very hard to stop for any opposing defensive coordinator.